Oh, that movie's fucking awesome.
Yeah, it is.
Like my dad was like, I want to watch a Bourne movie, and no shame to my dad, like
What are you talking about?
sometimes he likes shitty movies.
Bourne is
So I
not
was like,
shitty
oh,
movies, my dude.
no, but he really likes Legacy. He really likes the one with Jeremy Renner. So I was like, Dad, I don't know if I want to watch Legacy, and he was like, no, let's just watch the first one. And I was like, okay, let's do that. The first one I think is awesome.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Films Fika. This is the podcast where we pretend that we know what we're talking about while drinking coffee, of course. Today, we're talking about the, 1998 movie Sphere. Sphere. I'm gonna mispronounce that so many times. Excuse my Swedishness. Although way more importantly, today we have a special guest, a special person, a VIP. No one else but Larry Lindsay. How are you doing, Larry?
Hey guys, I'm doing A-okay. A little tired.
What about you, Mal? How are you today?
Oh, I'm great.
Oh,
I'm doing great.
What's up with that?
Well, I've been sick. I was sick last episode too.
Yeah.
But now I'm finally good. I'm okay. I can breathe. I can talk-ish. And I'm good. I'm happy. I'm happy to be back.
Did you end up watching Deep Throat?
Wait. Did you?
Here's the thing. I've known Algot for a while now. And this is not the first time that he brings up Deep Throat. So we've seen Deep Throat. I've been part of the journey.
We've seen
with
scenes.
him.
We haven't seen the film.
What kind of journey did you go on with Deep Throat?
It was the moment when I finally knew who Algot was.
The taste of
I think it was clear who he was as a person, and I was like, well, I guess,
This is the man that bleaches his butthole. God.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what? I was like, if I ever end up recording myself, it might as well be with him. I think he's weird enough. I think he's weird enough to keep your attention for long enough. You know what I'm saying?
I'm glad that Deep Throat brought you guys together.
Truthfully, I'm not even gonna it's a pretty rhetorical question, but you have seen it, Larry, right?
I have not, but from what you described to me,
Cult
I
classic.
get the gist.
Cult classic. Like the scene, it's on YouTube if you want to go see that specific scene. It's the best scene. Very good.
I heard about it in the last episode. Just,
yeah, right.
So I've been.
There's the scene with the doctor. Search up on YouTube the doctor scene, and you'll see the doctor talking to her and then looking down her throat and realize your clitoris is down your throat. Let me show you how to go about that, and then you can forward to the next plot scene because that's the only interesting part of that movie. Great film though.
Maybe because I haven't seen it, and I'm looking. I try to think of things as an actor's perspective, I guess. Did they discuss how she took care of herself before that? Does she just try to do really rough coughs?
There's I think there's 3 orgies before that, and they're really trying hard to get her there. There's of course no deep throating involved, so they can't.
I was gonna say, so she has the sexual reproductive organs, but her clitoris isn't.
It's just relocated. Yeah.
Amazing.
You should totally check it out, both of y'all. The first time I saw it was actually with my girlfriend at the time. That was interesting. But Larry, let's get to know you a little better. And I'm gonna hit you with the most difficult question of all.
If you ask me what my favorite movie is, I don't have one. That's way too hard.
I'm not gonna ask you what your favorite movie is. But say I'm a colleague of yours or just a random dude on the street going up to you for some reason. I realize that you're a movie fan, a movie geek, whatever you want to call it. And this person asks you what your favorite movie is. What's your response to that? Do you list your top 10 or do you have this one go-to that kind of encapsulates your taste in movies?
I have at least... I have maybe 4 off the top of my head. So I guess a top 4, I guess.
That you pick from?
most are like none of them are very recent. So you got Wizard of Oz, Arsenic and Old Lace, It's a Wonderful Life, and then Once Upon a Time in America.
Wow.
Those are really like classic
really
Americanistic.
I don't watch a lot of foreign films.
Fair enough. But what I'm trying to say, I guess there's not too many people that I know that have that as their top picks necessarily.
Well, there's a lot of people who just won't watch black and white.
True.
It's true.
It's annoying as hell.
Yeah, that too.
The Wizard of Oz was easily the first movie I ever saw. So that definitely opened up a lot for me. We used to have it. My uncle Jamie gave us a copy of it that he recorded off TV. And that was my copy for the longest time.
Yeah.
And now I own like 7 or 8 different copies. It's a Wonderful Life. When I was little, I was like, this is a cool movie. Then when I got older, I was like, this is not a Christmas movie. The only thing that takes place at Christmas is like at the end. And then just like that, the James fucking Stewart, man, that acting that he does is amazing in that film. I'm with him the entire time, believe everything he does. And at the end, I cry every time. I go see it in the theater every year, and I keep forgetting to bring tissues, and I got to go to the washroom at the end. And then Arsenic and Old Lace. I don't know if you guys had seen that one.
No, I have never heard of it.
No, that's the only one.
Oh, guys. I will make sure the Plex is up and running for you, because it is on there.
Nice.
It's directed by Frank Capra, who did It's a Wonderful Life, and it's got Cary Grant. It's like it's a dark comedy for the time. It was made in the 40s. I don't want to say it's like a horror comedy, but I guess probably back in the day it would have been. It takes place on Halloween night, and Cary Grant's character Mortimer is supposed to be this big bachelor. He ends up getting eloped, and he's about to go on honeymoon with his wife, and he doesn't want anybody knowing that he got married. So he goes over to his aunt's place, and then there's just there's some dead bodies, and I don't want to tell you anymore. But I think what works so well about that is you could remake it. And I don't think there's a bad way to make that movie. Like, you could do that on stage. There's basically 3 sets. Like, that could be a play. And then Once Upon a Time in America. You haven't seen it?
No, I've seen that one. It's really great.
Yes, you've seen it.
I really like it.
Sergio Leone is my favorite director of all time. I was going to say living, but he died after that movie in the 80s. I think the movie came out in 86, I think. I love that movie. I could watch that movie over and over and over again. I saw that movie for the first time with my sister, and we were like most people, like, oh, it's like 4 hours long. Oh, this is gonna be rough. We watched it. It got done with. That was 4 hours. It felt like 2.
Yeah,
I love that movie.
I love when that happens.
I mean, that's a good sign. That's a sign of a good movie. But it feels like those are still kind of in the same genre. I guess that one with the killing spree on Halloween might not be, but
they're not like
no.
You obviously know what It's a Wonderful Life is. You know what The Wizard of Oz is. I think those are 2 different genres. Like, one's pretty fantasy.
Fair enough.
The other one's drama. The other one's kind of a comedy. And then Once Upon a Time in America is just a fucking gritty crime drama.
My thought is there any genre per se that you just can't stomach? Or is there any genre that's just not for you?
I don't really like comedies too much. I lean away from comedies, at least like the most mainstream type comedy. If I go for comedy, I like either really dark or really dry. So like I really like British shit. And the one where I weave around, like where I contradict myself, is Kevin Smith. I love Kevin Smith comedies.
Like the stand-up
I think
stuff
it's a very
too?
Canadian thing.
What is?
That you like Kevin Smith.
But he's not Canadian.
No, I know he's not. But just like when I was in Toronto, all of our teachers would talk about him, and I don't know if it might be like the indie side of all of the shit that he does, but I feel it's just a Canadian thing. And again, I've never lived in America, so
I feel like the movies that he films might be shot in Canada for the most part. I wouldn't be surprised.
He has this trilogy that he was working on, and it's his Canadian trilogy, but he does so much shit. Like he does 7 podcasts, and he keeps like weaving in and out of what projects he's gonna do next.
It's insane. I was listening to the
Theaters.
Joe Rogan podcast with Kevin Smith, and it's like insane. He now does like multivitamins for some reason. It's crazy.
Yeah, he's all he had a heart attack and now he's all better. He's vegan. He lost a bunch of weight. He has this trilogy that's supposed to take place in Canada. So first one is Tusk, and then the second one is Yoga Hosers, and then the third one is supposed to be Moose Jaws, which is Jaws with a moose. But they haven't gotten around to that one yet because he had the heart attack, and I've heard him say that soon as he was on his deathbed, he's like, I don't want Yoga Hosers to be my last film. So he went and he made Jay and Silent Bob reboot.
I mean, I can understand that. Yowza.
I've heard about that
Have you
one,
guys seen
actually. I've heard about it, and it's not on my watch list. I can say that much.
Well, if you do a Kevin Smith spree, give it a go.
Okay.
Do you do that? Do you like tend to pick a director and just like sift through his cinematography? Filmography?
I tend to do that. Like, it's not normally directors. Normally I go with actors, and then eventually I do directors. But like,
Oh yeah, that makes more sense.
yeah. I did a spree of like Brad Pitt back in the day, who like Brad Pitt I never thought was that great of an actor.
Uh-huh.
But I was watching all his movies and I was like, oh, but I like what he's in. Like, I like these films. I like the choices, like the options that he gets.
He's in
And
quite a
then-
lot, though, isn't he?
He is. And
He has a lot of breath.
Yeah.
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 And now that I watch him, I'm like, I totally appreciate the kind of actor that he is. And I give him a lot more credit than I used to.
Mm.
But that was also before I went to film school with you guys. And like De Niro, fuck, if you want to take a month off just to watch De Niro films, go for it. DiCaprio, Gary Oldman. My favorite actor of all time is controversial. Can you guess, or do you know?
I actually don't know who your favorite actor.
Uh-oh.
I was gonna ask you right now. Like, so is your favorite actor the person who's responsible for you wanting to act, or is that like a different story?
That's a different story. That's just a product of growing up in a small town. So I'm from this town called Blenheim, Ontario. It's in between Chatham, Ontario, and Ridgetown, Ontario. If anybody knows of those, you don't, and it's okay. So there was like nothing to do when I was in public school. We used to just every recess we'd just go out and we would like play pretend of what like we saw on TV. Like there was Young Hercules back in the day with Ryan Gosling, who back in the day nobody knew who the fuck Ryan Gosling was. It didn't matter. But at recess we'd be like, it was like picking sports. It's like, you're gonna play this person, you're gonna play that person. Let's do a scene. And so we'd basically make sequels and shit out on recess, just like what episodes would we like to see. And then we would end up doing that with movies. We ended up doing that with Speed. We were out on like the playground thing, like a different bus. Oh no. So yeah, that was it. I just really, really fell in love with doing stuff like that.
Is your favorite
That's awesome.
actor male?
Yes, it is.
Could it be the guy from House of Cards?
Nope, not Kevin Spacey.
Kevin Spacey.
That would be controversial.
It would be. Mine is definitely controversial still, but
Oh, for similar reasons, or because people think he's not that good and you do?
no, I guess not quite for similar reasons. It's not like a Me Too thing.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
More
about-
along that spectrum of he's looked down on now.
Ooh.
Not by me. I love the guy. So
I have no idea.
I don't know, man.
I'll give you a hint. Rhymes with swell Wibson.
Mel Gibson?
Mel Gibson.
Wait. Okay, no, I see what you see. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like he went from being Mel Gibson to being the guy who directed X. That's how he gets presented now.
That's how you see. Oh, I'm glad you see him that way. That seems like pretty good stuff.
Well, here's the thing. It's like, I feel back when he would sell based on his name, it was all great. And like, it would be like Mel Gibson in big letters through the screen.
mhm.
But after, did he do Temptation or Passion of Christ?
Passion. Last Temptation was Scorsese.
Okay, so he did Passion of Christ. People got fucking mad. And they kind of canceled him after that.
I am glad that you don't actually know the story. Algot, do you know what he's getting wrong here?
I don't really pay any attention to this kind of drama.
Amazing. So he was a little bit drunk one night, and he verbally assaulted a female police officer. He called her sugar tits and stuff like that. And then there's audio of him getting angry at, I believe it was his ex-wife, and saying that, I hope you get raped by a bunch of black men.
Naturally.
Oh, so. Yeah. Dude.
Yeah.
I don't even know why. I think I just blanked that from my brain.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
But personally, like, I like just the choices he makes. Like him on camera, it's not. I fucking love what he does. I think he is just great. And another guy whose choices I really, really like that a lot of people don't seem to like, Tom Cruise.
Dude, I love Tom
Cruise. Only let me down like 4 times.
Have anyone caught up with the news about Tom Cruise? Like, my sister was saying one day that he was going to shoot a movie in space. What's up with that?
Yeah. With Elon Musk.
Yeah, Elon. But that's Musk. All I know. I only read the article. I was just like, I read the title. I was like, I'm in. I don't care, bro.
Yeah, Elon Musk is doing a bunch of shit right now to stay relevant because it's quarantine. So he needs to do outrageous shit.
Hey, man, I gotta give him some cred. Like, the way that he plays with the social media and PR stunts, he's got the nail in the coffin. That entire Tesla truck.
Does anybody know how to pronounce his kid's name?
No idea.
He did a podcast, like, by the recording of this literally 3 days ago. He was on Joe Rogan, and he... I watched it today just to see the pronunciation. It's something along the lines... let's look it up just to get it right.
People said it was Kyle, right?
For the longest time, yeah. That's not at all what Musk says. So, insane. Elon Musk's kid's name. Here's his explanation to it. The X is just an X. It's pronounced like X. The AE, the Danish Ä, which as a Scandinavian, I find this ridiculous, but he says it's pronounced Ash. It's pronounced Ä if you're a Scandi, whatever. And the A12 is my contribution to the Archangel 12. You probably have heard about this, that it's like a thing about the coolest airplane ever created or something like that, they say. Mm-hmm. So it's the kid is called A12. It's the predecessor of the R71, whatever. And if you put all of this together, the kid's name is pronounced X-Archangel. That's Musk's explanation to it.
The guy put a fucking product placement in his kid's name.
Yeah, man.
It's a PR stunt, I'm telling you. I have respect for it. It's cool.
He's going to have like a URL tattooed on his ass.
A QR code like that.
A QR code.
Scan me. Well, I must say, though, like, I saw the Ingrid Bergman documentary. That was Mao's recommendations a few weeks ago. In that documentary, it says something along the lines, or at least she was scandalous back in the day because I think she broke up with her partner at the time, and it was an entire big scandal. Different times.
No, that was the point.
Yeah.
She got married without breaking up with the other dude.
That's kind of bad manners. Regardless, she was essentially kicked out of the States. She didn't do films in the States for so long, and she didn't have any interest in coming back to the Hollywood system because of it being a scandal, even though in today's day and age, that would not be a big deal. Celebrities break up and make up all the time. But my question is, like, you have Mel Gibson, you have a bunch of people that fuck up in their private time. Does that affect you, or should it affect your view on them as people on the screen? Because to Ingrid Bergman, it shouldn't.
I think it depends. I think it really does depend.
It definitely depends. I think I'd like to say no. Mm-hmm. I'd like to say, hey, when you're at work, don't bring your personal shit with you. Like, this is somebody's work.
Yeah.
Keep all your personal shit at home where it needs to be. But that's just not how life is. But I do wish it was. And so when I defend Mel Gibson, I'm like, look at the work. But yeah, I definitely see where people can have a problem with stuff like the Kevin Spacey thing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I feel it depends because, like, for example, I know a lot of people who have an issue with Tom Cruise and the fact that, like, he's into Scientology and apparently he's not a great guy to his partners. But realistically speaking, when I talk about Tom Cruise, I don't talk about his life. Like, I'm never like, I don't know if he's a good guy or if he's a bad guy. All I know is that I enjoy the movie that he's in.
Exactly.
You know, but I think, and this is where the depend comes in, you know, like, it depends on a lot of things. Like, I feel Roman Polanski is really, you know, controversial because
Only
he's done
a
a lot
little
of
bit.
shit. And, you know, I understand why people are mad that he's still, like, adored by a lot of people because he's done a lot of bad shit. And, you know, like, it's rough because he's got some movies, like really good movies. But I understand why he's getting canceled, and I understand why people are, like, trying to get his name off of his movies.
I feel like it must suck to be a public figure. Like, literally, everything you do is blown up to be such a big thing. The Me Too movement is great for all sense and purposes, but it's also greatly exaggerated to some extent. All in all, that's all good and fine and dandy. And I feel like it's a different type of job too. In a normal workspace, if you were to beat your wife at home or anything, that might have consequences. You might not have a job later if you're a dick person in your personal life. If it's really extreme, it might take some consequences. However, when you're going from gig to gig, it's a different story. And if you're an actor, you have your entire persona that you're trying to save. I mean, look at how much Elon Musk's put into his PR. It's all about PR to these people in that sense.
I am glad that we don't boycott people's movies who do this shit, though, because if you look at Weinstein, if we boycotted everything he made, we would not have a fucking movie to watch from the late 90s to the mid 2000s. That guy produced so much stuff. Him and his brother. We don't ever hear about his brother, and his brother's probably okay with that.
Yeah.
When Kevin Smith, going back to Kevin Smith, when he found out about that, any money he made off those releases later on, like after he found out about it, he gave all the money to charities to do with sex abuse and stuff. So that's cool. Good guy.
Then again, granted, he shouldn't be allowed to have made that many movies from the start because that shit was going on for way longer.
And a lot of people knew.
He's definitely not the only one, too.
No, that's so sad.
Oh, yeah.
There has to be so many that aren't having their names out there right now.
Yeah.
That should be.
I think it's complex. It's a complex topic, you know? We're definitely not qualified. But,
yeah, I was going to say, we don't know enough about it. we're so ignorant to this.
But in terms of, like, you know, our own opinion, I think, you know, it's rough because you're right, Algot. Realistically speaking, if you're a banker, if you're an average Joe, and you did this nasty thing in your personal life, you know, it would probably stay secret for a really, really long time. But because you're a public person, you're in the public eye, people tend to put higher standards on you because you're supposed to be something to aspire to. You're supposed to be this thing that is better than your average Joe. So when it comes out that these people are just as human as the rest of us, people get fucking mad, you know, and
it's a fine balance.
One thing to retort to that: when you say these people like the rest of us, what the fuck do you do in your downtime?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, realistically speaking, it's like they are supposed to, and this is not something that I subscribe to personally. I think the whole idea of celebrity is insane. But, you know, they are supposed to be better than us in some way, or they're just richer. I don't know.
There are a lot of kids that look up to these people. On a different note, however, so what are y'all's recommendations of the week? What is some good shit that you have seen, heard, or anything else? Let me start.
That's a great segue.
Great segue. Thank you very much. I have, as many times before, went into, like, this week has just flown by. I haven't done shit, and I feel unproductive and all, but I don't really care. I usually, like, fall into these YouTube traps and just binge YouTube videos. There's this great show called It's Alive. It's very popular and all, by Bon Appetit, the magazine. It's Alive specifically by Brad Leone is amazing. You might have seen the other show by Bon Appetit of Claire Saffitz when she makes gourmet makes, and she takes like Twizzlers and puts a twist to it, ha, pun intended, and makes them better, elevates the candy itself. Another show is It's Alive. It's Brad Leone, and he's like I want to be him when I grow up, or I think I should find a partner with his kind of energy. He's like just so full of it. He runs around and goes on tangents constantly. I love it, and it's a good show.
So you're saying you want to marry a kid?
Essentially, a kid with ADD.
I think that would be the only type of person who would be able to keep up with you to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you should get a child bride.
I don't know. I see myself as a kind of a hobby cook at home, so it's great fun watching this guy run around and ferment a bunch of things. Has inspired me to make my own fermented jars and have a fermentation station. Anyways, that's how much I've been doing this week. Very productive.
Does it smell?
Oh, a lot, but it's fun and it tastes funky.
Your poor family.
What about you guys?
Larry, you can go first.
Okay.
What is your recommendation?
My recommendation isn't anything new. I've been spending most of my time gaming, but this movie I really, really enjoyed, and my sisters did not. It came out in 2007, directed by Danny Boyle, and it is called Sunshine. I don't know if you have seen it or not.
I've heard of Sunshine.
You haven't seen it?
I haven't seen it, no.
Algot?
Nah, sorry.
What? Boys, this recommendation is for you.
Tell us about it.
It's a sci-fi.
And Cillian Murphy's in it, right?
Cillian Murphy and our boy Captain America, also known as Chris Evans. Cliff Curtis. I don't know if you guys know who Cliff Curtis is. He's probably one you'd see him. You'd be like, I recognize that guy, but I don't know his name.
He's one of those.
Who else is in this that I can't think of right now? Rose Byrne. How did I forget Rose Byrne? Anyway, it's a sci-fi. It takes place a little bit in the future. The sun is dying, and so if the sun dies, it gets really cold here and we die. So what they do is they send this spaceship up to set off a nuke in the moon to recharge that sun. Ridiculous premise, but you got to remember that, like,
it checks out. It checks out.
It sure doesn't. The rules of, like, the movie universe. Like, it's not our universe; it's the movie's universe. They're saying, okay, these are the rules you're giving me. This is what's got to get going. This is what has to happen. I'm with you. I'm in it. So let's get there. I remember listening to a commentary. I think it was a commentary. If it wasn't a commentary, it was something that I read. That before they were gonna bring a spaceship the size of, like, New York, and then they were like, that doesn't work because then it would have its own orbit, and then how would we get it off Earth? You know, so it's a lot smaller.
So thought went into it.
Yeah, but literally when this thing gets fucking going, it does not stop. There's no time to breathe. There's one thing going on. As soon as you think it's done, something else is going on. It is nonstop, just stuff happening, and there's a part where it kind of shifts genres near the end that I guess bothered a lot of people. Not me at all. I was into it. Give me the twist.
Why did your sisters not like it?
I couldn't tell you. I was young, like I was 16 when we watched it. The second they said they didn't like it, I was like, what the fuck's wrong with you? And I just walked away. So I have no idea why they didn't like it.
Yeah. Angry teen Larry.
Pretty much, yeah, just bitter. You don't like what I like?
All right. I think so. You know, I respect the way that you watch movies. You know, I think more people should watch movies like that, where it's like, you know, within the constraints of this, and it's something that Algot and I talked about when we watched Shark Boy and Lava Girl. You know, you have to say your expectations to what you're watching. It's like you're watching a early 2000 movies, kids movie that, you know, had a shit ton of CGI. And if you're realistic about it, the kids don't give a flying fuck about how it looks. It's just about, is it fun? Is it engaging? Am I, you know, into this movie? And I think
they got to work with Robert Rodriguez, and they didn't even know it.
Okay. My recommendation for this week is actually very theme appropriate. It's also a sci-fi. and it's also underwater, and it is called Underwater, and it's a 2020 movie. It came out January of this year. And we all know January movies are usually not the best. January is kind of like the graveyard for studios. It's like if your movie's coming out in January, the studio doesn't really believe in it. And it has Kristen Stewart in it, and it's directed by William Eubank. And it's about a bunch of people who are in an underwater station at a drilling plant in like the deepest part of the ocean.
The Marianas Trench, right?
Yeah. And it's awesome. I had a lot of fun with it. And I realized also after watching Sphere, which is this week's movie, that I haven't seen a lot of sci-fi. And I think I want to get into it. Because I haven't. Like,
I love sci-fi, man.
There's a
Let's
whole bunch
do
of
this.
movies that people talk about a lot and that they like a lot, and I've never seen them. There's a movie that came out around the time Sphere came out that's called The Dark City that apparently is really good. Sunshine was another one that I heard was really good. And I seem to enjoy these types of movies, so I'm going to give them a go and kind of just try and find these knowledge gaps.
We'll give you a list.
Yeah, dude, the Plex is full of them. Everything you just named is on the Plex.
Yeah, but basically, Underground is great. Kristen Stewart's in it.
Did you say Underground?
You mean
Underwater?
Because Underground is a different story, isn't it?
I saw Underwater in theaters. I enjoyed it.
I thought it was really cool, man. Like it starts it starts in the middle of everything. Like you meet Kristen Stewart's character, and then everything starts going to shit. And it is really well made. I thought the VFX, I thought the pace, I thought it was really cool. And I think it's really sad when a movie, is clearly a product of a lot of passion, when people don't seem to want to even give it a shot. The movie costs around $60 to $80 million, and I think it just made like 40 worldwide.
Did it even screen in theaters? January is pretty. That was around the time they closed, wasn't it?
It played, like, I work at a movie theater. Yeah. And it played for a while. Like when I went to go see it, it started in the smallest screen because even the theater didn't give a fuck about it. So I watched it the next week because it was actually getting some traction. It moved to a bigger screen. I was like, why didn't you guys tell me? I would have waited. I didn't have to watch it on this little screen. But I actually have two questions for you, just given what you said there. Number one, because you said you don't watch a lot of sci-fi. What kind of sci-fi do you think you would like? Because there's different types of sci-fi. Like I love time travel. I don't know. Same. Are you into that?
So here's the thing. I've seen a lot of time travel movies. Time travel movies I have seen. I'm talking more about like
low-key
like
sci-fi.
Sphere.
Yeah.
Like movies like Sphere, like Sunshine, where
they're more dramas, but the theme is more sci-fi maybe, or the tone.
It's more about like is it high concept? Is that what it is called? Is it like a high concept sci-fi? Something like that. I like creature movies, man. That's also a thing. Like, I love Alien, and I think Prometheus is underrated. I really do think Prometheus.
I love Prometheus.
It's so good.
It's too
slow. Me and my dad, we don't get along with much, but we agree on Prometheus.
Dude, I think it's underrated as hell. I think it's awesome. Anyways,
I went and saw that in theaters the day it came out. I went to the late showing. I went with my girlfriend at the time and my friend Lee. And as soon as it was done, Lee said, dude, you want to watch that again? I'm like, yeah, I do. But we went to the late one. We fucked up.
Yeah. I thought it was great. I thought that movie that came out a couple of years ago with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Life?
Rebecca Ferguson is in it. Yeah, Life.
I
thought Life was great too, man.
I call that Alien 2.0. I dug that.
A lot of people were against it because of that, because it was a lot like Alien. But I was like, bro, it looks awesome. These guys are kicking ass with their acting. It's fun.
I'm going to say something kind of anti-Canadian here. I'm not a huge fan of Ryan Reynolds. I feel like he gives the same 3 performances. It's like, what movie am I making this week? Okay, I'm going to give this one.
It's true.
And when he didn't, spoilers, he doesn't make it that long in life. I was like, fuck yes, this movie's racking.
It's like, now I can get on board with it.
But my other question I was going to ask you, you said like when a studio puts out a movie then because they don't believe in it. How do you feel when like you recommend a movie to someone that you really, really like and they just, nah, I'm not going to watch that. I'm not even going to give it a shot. How does that make you feel?
You can't do that,
honestly,
though. You should like
thing,
pretend
right?
to put it on the list at least.
Here's the thing with me and recommending movies. It's like I don't do it because I know I'm not your average Joe. You know, I know I have a specific taste. And so it's really hard. It's really hard to recommend a movie because of what you just said. Because I'm like, dude, I love this fucking movie. Go watch it. And then it's like, I don't know. I don't know if I like it, etc., etc. So I sidestep.
Mm-hmm. So, do we want to go into the actual movie of the week?
Yeah, we talk about this week's movie. This week's movie is Sphere, 1998. Dan Levinson.
There it
Barry
is.
has the Blu-ray.
On cue.
So, we'll do the whole spoiler-free 2-minute kind of rundown. Synopsis of the movie. An alien spacecraft is discovered in the ocean, and a team of scientists is sent to investigate. It stars Dustin Hoffman, Sharon Stone, Samuel L. Jackson, Liev Schreiber, among others. I will say this, though.
Don't you dare leave out Queen Latifah.
No. Okay, so here's the thing. Queen Latifah is in the movie, and I have these names written down because last episode I said Colin Firth like 5 times, and it's Colin Farrell in the movie.
Can I already correct you then? I think when you started, you said Dan Levinson, but it's Barry.
Whom? The director?
Yeah.
Is it not Dan?
It's Barry Levinson.
Fuck you, IMDb.
Well done.
Barry Levinson, ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome.
It's a pretty good cast, honestly.
Oh, it's a great cast, especially for the time,
Even
like,
Huey Lewis is the helicopter pilot at the beginning.
Yeah.
What?
That's insane.
I would like to say that I find similarities in this film to like the type of genre film that was. I guess it's kind of late to the party, but films like Event Horizon, The Thing, maybe even Alien. That kind of like you go to a place and it's drama happening, and then there's a monster or whatever, like that kind of a structure to a movie. At least it falls into the same category, right?
When we get into the spoiler talk, there's a total alien scene in this movie. Yeah.
But here's the thing, like Algot and I knew nothing about this movie. Barry recommended to us for this episode, and I went into it not knowing anything, and a lot of people didn't like this movie when it came out. And to be completely honest, because we're giving our spoiler-free thoughts, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really fun time. I thought it was nice. The cast is really good. I thought the effects hold the fuck up, man, and that's not easy, but it holds up, and it's awesome. What do you think, Algot?
I really enjoyed it as well. I feel like the reason why, we'll get into it later. There is a reason, like the latter part of the film, why people might start to feel a little bit distant from the film. But it's very well made. Like especially the writing, I find the dialogue is just killing it. It's really high quality of a film, and I'm very glad because I would never have seen this film without Larry's recommendation, and I'm very glad that I did. So yes, I liked the film, and I think it's going to be an interesting conversation. However, getting into the spoiler.
Now, do you remember the reason I recommended it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because of the ending. You wanted us.
Yeah, because
to
Algot in one episode said that endings turn him off. So like, if the ending's not good, that it totally ruins the whole experience for him. And personally, I'm not a fan of the ending, but the entire film gives me so much like goodwill before the ending. I'm just like, fuck it. Movie's gotta end. You gave me all that good shit.
All right. So,
any other spoiler-free thoughts?
I think spoiler-free basically is, if you like this type of sci-fi where it is, like you said, it's a whole bunch of people in isolation dealing with something otherworldly, I would give it a shot. I think it's worth looking at. So let's get into spoiler territory. This is officially your warning. You can go watch the movie, come back.
Yeah, that's the alarm.
Yeah. You're going to find out what's going on in the back of the case now. Oh, no.
Yeah. I think people could have a lot of fun with this movie, especially because I think younger people than us have a really hard time getting into 2090s movies just because they might not look like the movies that they're used to now, and I understand it. But I think this is a really good, like, it holds up. It's really cool.
I mean,
check it out.
It is definitely from that era, though. It is.
Yeah.
Did you know that this movie was actually rushed? They had some production problems, and in the middle of making the movie, Barry Levinson and Dustin Hoffman made another movie and then went back to finishing this one.
Wait, what?
They made Wag the dog. Like, they started Sphere, some shit happened. They made Wag the dog. They finished Sphere.
That's hilarious. Was it like some underwater issues, or was it not that practical?
I think it was budget.
I have no idea what the issues were. It's been a long time since I looked into the facts. And you're right. We were discussing the movie. I should have re-looked into them, but I didn't. I'm sorry.
It's fine. From what I read, it was budgetary reasons. Like, people, like, I think it's Paramount, the studio behind this movie. I think Paramount
Warner
got
Brothers.
really scared about. It's Warner Brothers then. I don't know. It's one or the other.
It's Warner Brothers.
Okay. So Warner Brothers got not, like, they got scared about the budget because they might have gone over or something, and so they had to rewrite the script to fit the budget that they wanted.
With the characters as well, with the writing, I find there's a great dynamic between the characters, as with your typical, whatever you want to call it, like this type of genre film, I'm going to call it. I don't know how to better explain it. But, just like Event Horizon or just like Alien, there's a bunch of scientists in most of the cases that are just clumped together, and there's some really interesting development within the relationship that is explained throughout the film. But from the beginning, like, they're not necessarily likable character. I guess most of them are, but the dynamic between the characters is just so interesting to follow. Like, at least the first act to me is really well done and so well explained.
Yeah. And I was gonna say, I really enjoy the fact that they knew each other before the movie started, and it's kind of like we're catching up to what their history is, because there's a lot of history there clearly between all of them.
What I enjoy about it is everybody just seems like such a real person. Like, everybody's got issues. Like, fucking at least 3 of them have ego issues. And not one of these people, like, when you start the movie, you're like, oh, okay, this is the hero of the film. Not one of these people you're going to be like, oh, okay, I got to root for this person. You don't have to. And it's just the way that these characters interact. Like, everybody is so different and they work so well together. Yeah. Like, just the part where they're going down in the little sub for the first time, and Samuel L. Jackson is like booping her along, and Liev Schreiber's telling him to stop doing that, and Dustin Hoffman, that's his nervous reaction. This is your nervous reaction. Just let him handle it. I'm in, man.
For sure.
And you got to establish all of that instantly.
Exactly. And I think what's really cool is how your, predilection to any of the characters changes throughout the movie. It's like you're never on someone's side for a long time. You're always switching around. You're like, that guy's kind of a douche now, so I don't know if I like him right now. But then, it changes, and it's like, oh, it's because of this. It's because of his ego problem, or it's because he feels like he's a failure because he hasn't done anything, and he's getting close to his cutoff date, whatever he thinks.
One of the funnier things, like, when I saw this movie, I saw it when it came out, so I was 7 years old, and I just dug it, but I didn't really quite understand everything. Now that I'm older and I see the subtlety of some of the things, I enjoyed it a lot. Like, just rewatching it for this, I've watched it twice in the last week. And there's a part at the beginning where you first meet Liev Schreiber, and Dustin Hoffman's just getting down on this ship. And he's like, Liev Schreiber says, "You don't know who I am?" And Dustin Hoffman says, "Just tell him the book you wrote." And he tells him the fucking scientific book he wrote. And he's like, "You really thought he was going to know who you are?" Oh, it got me good.
Yeah. And it tells you so much about both of them, like, without necessarily telling you, like, oh, this guy is this or this guy is that, or like, there's no I feel like the only conversation that happens where it's like, a little bit more exposition is when the captain or the colonel or whatever he is goes to Dustin Hoffman, and he's like, why didn't you tell us that this bitch is crazy? And it's like, I feel like that's the only interaction where they're actually explicitly telling you a detail. Other than that, I feel everyone is like you said, like a really fleshed out character.
And speaking about exposition, like an issue that normally occurs when you have a bunch of scientists, there's usually some sort of explanation to, I don't have a great example, but they're probably, I think they do explain things of how the underwater base works and like the specifics about it, just to like get that out there, just to, I don't know, it doesn't necessarily help the movie, but I feel like this film, at least,
they do it so fast, and like
it makes sense because they're scientists explaining it to each other,
and
in
none of them have trained to go underwater, so it's like literally when they're going down to the sub, he's saying all this shit, and you're just like, okay. And then even the first time he puts on his diving suit, Dustin Hoffman's like, it's getting a little foggy here. And they got to explain how it works while he's in it because they didn't train for it.
It's very natural. And I mean, I guess it kind of reaches to a point where it gets a bit too much for me personally. But it's water under the bridge, realistically. It's not that big. I feel like a lot of movies have a big issue with having some sort of, what's the word? They expose too much of how specific things work for no big reason. Right. Just to have that scientific explanation, which I respect them for. But if you're going overboard with your scientific explanation, why this and how specifically this part works, you're kind of ruining that movie in a way.
I'm not gonna lie. Here's the thing: when it comes to sci-fi movies or like fantasy movies, I tend to do what Larry said. You know, I kind of just accept the fact that I'm in this universe for however long this movie is.
I think you definitely have to.
Yeah.
If you try to base science fiction on real life, you're fucking yourself.
Yeah, and I don't really see the point, you know. And for me, so when they go down and they first enter the station, and it turns out they have to breathe helium instead of normal oxygen, and they give you this whole thing, and it's like, all right, you know what? Fuck it. I don't know why it's there, but I appreciate it, and now I'm in it, and I understand why it's a thing, you know.
I like that they're at least trying, and I feel like they're succeeding a lot with building the world, but not to an unnecessary extent.
It's a like real small cast. There's like 5 main people for the most part, and then they slowly die off. At what point were you guys like, oh, I am in? This movie's kind of really fucking dope. What point was that for you guys?
Oh, when they find out it's an American spaceship.
Oh, okay. Sooner than me, but go ahead.
No, well, here's the thing. Okay, I love underwater things. Like, I know people shit on underwater a lot. Like, they don't like the underwater levels on video games, or like they don't like movies that happen underwater and all this shit. I thoroughly enjoy it. So, you know, when they start going under to the station and all this stuff, I was like, okay, this is really similar to some stuff I've seen before. But when they find out it's like an American spaceship, I was like, all right, this is dope. Because now it's time travel too, man. Like I can get in with it, man.
That's fun. Like the way they introduce time travel and how time travel is always present, but it's not a big plot point. I like that.
Yeah, it was really, really cool. What about you, Algot? When were you in?
I can't really tell you when when it grabbed me. I guess from the first scene when he wakes up in the helicopter. Like, the first act to me is very well crafted. I can't tell you when it lost me, if that's interesting.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, let's get to that.
We'll get to that.
What about you, Larry? What did you?
When I'm with you. Like, I wasn't like totally in when we find out it's an American spaceship. But at that point, I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's cool. But then once they find the sphere and whatever, I love the line Dustin Hoffman says. It's like, you guys notice anything? Peter Coyote says, yeah, it appears to be mercury, doesn't it? But mercury's liquid at this temperature. No, not that. It's the fact that it's reflecting everything but us.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hate to be the only non-scientist guy to notice this. But the next scene, when Samuel L. Jackson's just ready to go to sleep. We're all going to die down here, you know? I was like, what? It's just a matter of deductive reasoning. Why in 50 years does this black hole event occur and they don't know it? We didn't get back to tell them. And then the alarm goes off. I'm like, I'm fucking in. Oh, here we go.
Yeah. Awesome. I watched this movie with my brother, and I'm sure that's when it got him too. Because he was like, oh shit, he's right.
Yeah, exactly.
He's completely right.
It's not a thing that you think of immediately, and then that part happens. You're, oh man.
The Samuel L. Jackson, like, he's so good.
I think this is probably the most chill I've ever seen him in a movie.
Fair enough. Yeah. There's no snakes on the underwater, at least. I mean, there are snakes underwater, but he's
like,
Never mind, I take that back.
We can talk about the alien scene if you want.
The alien scene.
Yeah,
go ahead. Is that with the snakes?
No. So the part that reminds me of Alien, like the first Alien from '77, I believe it was.
Was it?
So John Hurt gets the face hugger on him. When he wakes up, he has his nice meal, and then the ship pops out.
Yeah.
I think, and I just realized this maybe 2-3 viewings ago. So like it took me a long time, and I've seen Alien and Sphere quite a bit, but I never really compared the two. I like to think of them as separate. But there's the scene. The alarm's going off. Harry's asleep. Harry is Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
Everything's going on. Some people died. He wakes up, and he's just going to town on this food that Dustin Hoffman is making. And I'm thinking, oh, this is very Alien here. And then they're all asking him questions. The whole,
like, this is really good. Like, I'm really enjoying this food, and it's really fun, and I really love it. And everyone's like, it's ship food.
Yeah, and
why are you talking
how did you
about?
sleep through all that shit going on? What is going on? And he does it later on again. He ends up sleeping through another alarm. But he gives him the calamari, and then he like does his freak out. And at that freak out, you're like, what's going to come out of him? What's going on? You're like, oh, nothing.
Dude, I thought he was going into like anaphylactic shock or something, and he was going to like die right there. And I was like, oh.
Yeah. But he just didn't like squid.
So that's probably the most overacting in that film. But it works for the scene, I guess.
True. It's true.
Here's the thing about the writing. I really enjoy it, like Algot said, and I think it's really cool that it's an adaptation of a Michael Crichton novel. For those of you who don't know, he also wrote Jurassic Park, like the novel that the movie then adapted. But I also feel that there are things that don't entirely work. And this is some of the gripes that I have with the movie just comes with some of the silliness, I guess. I feel you could have come up with a better name than Jerry. I get why it's Jerry because it's a whole plot point. You know, I understand it. But at the same time, I was like, I want to believe this thing. And, you know, there's a point when it starts getting really hostile, like the entity that we think is a sphere is talking through the computer to them. And when it starts getting really hostile, I'm like, okay, I'm in. This is creepy as shit. But at first, when it's like, this is like, I'm Jerry and I am happy and all this stuff, and I was like, I don't know if this will hold up. I don't know if I can get on board with it. You know,
dude, I feel the name Jerry just adds to the creepiness because it's such an innocent, almost childish name, Jerry. That's not harmful at all.
Dustin Hoffman totally saved that scene for you, where he's just in the back. I'd rather if Jerry didn't feel anything at all. What happens if Jerry 100%. Gets mad? And then boom, different scene. But
he does save the scene. And realistically speaking, I feel like all of them commit to the material enough that we believe all of them. And I think it's really cool how they manage to salvage some of these like more silly lines, more silly plot lines. And I feel it's really interesting to see.
So I have two plot holes that I kind of like. It's fine. It's not a big plot hole at all, but I do have a little bit of issues with two things. One of them being Jerry. Later in the biggest plot point, I guess, would be that Jerry turns out to be Harry. Harry mistranslated the code. So every J is an H.
I might be able to defend this one.
So please do. I've only seen it once, so there might be some correction to what I'm saying here. But J is supposedly an H, and A is supposedly an E. Therefore, Jerry is Harry. But that would mean that every single J in this algorithm code, whatever it is, would be an H, and certain words would be fucked up, right? Is there a defense to that?
Yeah, see, I was on the same track as you back in the day, and then I changed that after rewatching and kind of trying to understand the film a little bit more. So when you go in the sphere and it projects what you're thinking, say if Harry was the one that put in the code, right? To get it all right. He could have misinterpreted it, not necessarily on purpose, but subconsciously, thinking he got it right. So it projects what he thought it was. So anything that is wrong is right to him. His subconscious can fix that. So like say when he's asleep and Dustin Hoffman's talking to Jerry, he's listening. It's not really necessarily typing. He's that's my fix for it. Anyway.
I like that.
That's where I give that leeway.
My second plot hole, I guess, is as you were mentioned before. There is a second time when Samuel or Harry sleeps through like one of the bigger attacks. That to me, while watching it, I felt like no one really missed Harry. They already were suspicious about Harry at the time, and now they're just battling a big octopus, and no one really thinks that. Where is Harry, by the way? I don't know. He's probably asleep.
I could thinking
seems to be going on for quite a while.
I'm going at it from an actor's view again. If I'm in the scene, if I'm in that real event, I'm not giving a fuck where Harry is. I'm trying to take care of my own at this point. All right, we're gonna drown. What do I have to do to stop this?
Yeah.
We're gonna burn. How are we gonna do this? I'm worried about that. I'm trying to save myself.
There is sometimes when they're actually stands and trying to figure stuff out. Maybe their thoughts should have crossed that path. I'm just saying it's not a major plot hole. To be honest,
your argument's invalid.
No,
I'm saying I can give it leeway because of that.
I'll say this though, when it comes to this type of movie, you know, The Thing, Alien, Live, all of these types of movies, Event Horizon, it all comes down to the death scenes. You know, do they make you squirm?
And this one's PG-13. This one's not even rated R.
Exactly.
Ooh.
And I think they killed it. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
The practical effects are great.
Amazing.
Exactly. And I think it's really, really cool, especially because all of them get really, like, they're not exaggerated. Because when Queen Latifah dies with the jellyfish, I was like, oh man, you know, okay, it's a 90s movie, science wasn't that big of a thing, like realistically, okay. But then Sharon Stone is like, this is not a jellyfish, like I don't know what the fuck this is, but God did not create this. I was like, all right, you saved it.
And then she pulls the shit out of her nose.
Yeah, it's I think all the death scenes were great,
and it's
I
feel like it's elevated along as we progress through the movie. It's more and more gore to it, and I like that.
I honestly
enjoy when.
Go ahead.
I really enjoy when Coyote gets crushed by the door. I thought that was awesome because I was like, "Oh my god, it's gonna happen! Is it gonna happen?" And then it happens. I was satisfied.
I think that the movie lends itself, like, I don't think you notice it the first time you watch it, but I think the movie lends itself to a lot of rewatchability. You pick up a lot of subtle things when you watch it. And I've been watching it for many, many years, but I think there's a shit ton of rewatchability in that film.
So
yeah, no, I think it's really cool.
Before we touch on the ending, I have one point. Just to cover someone that might not have seen the film in quite some time. So there's the sphere, the word that I cannot pronounce correctly. Which, by the way, you were talking about special effects, the VFX on the ball. I'm gonna call it a ball. That looks amazing, though. It holds up so well with that VFX, and it's pretty simple to do it, like technically, but it looks dope. It looks dope.
Yeah.
What they were gonna do originally, because in the book, it's just like it's chrome. It's like a chrome ball. They were gonna do that, and then they thought, well, it's in a dark room, you wouldn't even fucking see it, so we're gonna have to change it somehow. So then they made it the way it is.
Nice. Who is it? Harry enters it first. They discover it. Harry later that night goes back to the ball and goes through it, goes into it, or whatever you want to call that. His reflection is like flies
which also
straight
looks
up.
Really cool, by the way.
It doesn't look as good, but it looks cool. It looks cool.
I like when the shot, like maybe not when he goes up it, because that looks a little bit like cartoon spirit, like. But I really like when it's Dustin Hoffman and he kind of like comes out of the sphere or something, and it's like I thought that was really cool. But
sure.
Keep going.
I got you, Larry.
Can we talk about that fucking score for a hot minute?
Sure.
That score, oh my god! If I hear one note from that movie, I'm like, Sphere's on TV. Oh man, like when I don't even know what instruments are playing, but like the sense of discovery, like when they first get on the spaceship and they hit the unknown event, and that fucking like the CGI whole thing comes at you, and that score kicks in. I'm like, yes, take all the. I love it. And
here's the thing.
What
I really enjoy the score because of what you just said. The sense of wonder, the sense of discovery. Like, all I could think of was Journey to the Center of the Earth and like all of these other, material movies, video games where it's like the sense of wonder, the sense of like, this is unknown, we're discovering. I thought that was really cool. You're right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What were you going to say, Algot? Talk to us. You
so about the ball,
mustache motherfucker.
I'm growing it. That's you're done with the score. I don't have anything to add to it.
I'm pretty much done with the score. I was gonna get like it just starts off big and then it like simmers down a little bit, but it doesn't need to because then the story amps up and you're like, pay attention to the story. I'll keep this here for your wonder. Go.
Who's the guy? Did you say Hoffman? Is that the
Dustin Hoffman? Yeah.
Which character is that? What's his name?
He's the main.
He's the main character.
Why can't I think of his character name?
No.
The one that Sharon Stone had an affair with back in the day. Yeah.
What's his name?
Do you have his? I thought you had the list in front of you. Do you not?
I have the list of actor names because I didn't want to do the whole calling first thing.
Damn! Why can't I think of his damn name in this?
Moments.
Norman.
Norman.
One of my fucking middle names, and I couldn't remember.
Oh yeah, Norman. So where were we? Basically, Harry enters the ball. Norman rushes up to save his life or check in on him. I don't even know. Harry is on the floor.
I can tell you that one. That's because it's the scene right after he says we're gonna die down here. The alarm goes off. He's like, "We're gonna miss the sub. Fuck that! I'm going to get Harry." Mm-hmm. That's what's going on there.
Oh yeah, right. But then we have the scene of Norman and his reflection on the ball. And it's kind of unclear what happens to him. Later in the film, we realize that the lady, whatever her name is, it is clear that she has entered the ball as well. So the main question is, did Norman enter the ball? What do you think?
I think they all did.
Yeah, I believe he entered at the same time, like just after Harry, like right when he got to him. I believe that's when he entered. Because
for sure.
Granted, he is the one that is the most sane out of the three of them. He's the one that keeps it together the most. But then again, he has some kind of vivid, nightmarish scenes later with the books and everything.
Dude, I'm gonna be completely honest. When he starts turning on Beth, I was like, "Are you kidding me? Harry's suspicious as fuck." The dude has been like, it actually irritated me. I was like so frustrated because I was like,
you told me you'd be there. You weren't there. He saved my life. Now you want me to disbelieve Harry? The man saved my life.
I was like, that makes because even his saving his life is weird as shit.
Well,
so
the point
suspicious.
When she described like Harry went to the console, he said he would save you, and he just shrugs that off.
Yeah, I know. I was actively frustrated, but I think they all enter the sphere.
110%. Rewatch it again. 40 fucking times.
I feel like I should rewatch it again.
But we can talk about the ending.
Let's talk about the ending.
From what I'm gathering, it loses both of you.
It didn't lose you?
No.
The point where the movie lost me, as in where I didn't lose interest, but it was kind of like, okay, like I'll sit through it kind of a thing. It started to kind of drag. Was when the physicist I have in my notes dies. I don't really remember what that guy is. Who's the physicist of the?
Wasn't he the math guy?
The lanky, yeah.
Ted.
Or was that Harry?
Are you talking about Ted?
I think
Harry's the math guy.
Harry's the math guy. Sorry.
The physicist. His name's Ted.
The blonde guy, right?
Yeah.
He dies around the time when the big octopus. He's like the last person to go, or something along those lines.
Yeah, he got the fire. Gets him, right?
Around that time, it's just we kind of, as the viewer, we already have the explanation. We kind of have a grasp what is going on. We know that Harry has to do a lot with the monsters around him. So I feel like that point it kind of started to lose me more and more. You go, Larry.
Well, you got lost like halfway in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's not
I will say
big
this.
sell.
The movie, and I don't know if it's because I had to, when I watched it, I had something to do right after it. So I don't know if that's why I was so, aware of how long it was.
Fair.
But when
2:14.
when the sub gets called back in and they're like, "Oh, we have 6 hours. We're leaving this place, whatever." I was like, "What?" It seems like it's wrapping up, and it was still like an hour away. I was like,
yeah.
And I feel like, honestly, I feel like that hour
lost you halfway through.
I feel like that last hour could have been 30, 45 minutes, honestly. It kind of drags for me.
I have no problem with that. That does not drag at all for me. I'm invested in the story. I'm invested in the characters. I want to be on this ride with them. The part that loses me is literally the immediate ending, and I'm going to spoil it for everybody right here. We have the power to forget. Do you ever just fucking forget anything? Do you ever just go, I want to forget that? What was I talking about? No. I think that is the dumbest fucking thing I've seen in probably any movie.
Wait.
Like, for that to be the thing? Like, that's how it ends? Yeah. Just the power to forget.
But
that's where it
sense.
loses me.
Because the thing is, like, they're not saying they have the power to forget as, like, human beings. As, like, oh, we can forget. It's because they can make what they think a reality.
I mean, they still want to live, right?
I mean, I see. You would. Like, I love this movie for what it is. I love the fuck out of it. And so I want to get on your side here. But I can... What are you saying? Think to forget? Explain this better.
Basically, okay, the way that I saw it, and basically the reason why it didn't lose me, first of all, I am more lenient when it comes to endings. Like, it has to be a really bad fucking ending for me to be like, this is bye. Mostly because of what you said, man. Like, if I'm on this ride and it was cool enough, I'll give it a pass. But in terms of the ending in this, from what I understand, the sphere, once you enter it, you gain the ability to manifest your thoughts. And that's why the calamari happens. And that's why Dustin Hoffman almost dies choking, because Beth tells him, she's like, I was mad. I wanted you to suffer. And that's why the whole complication happened. So basically, everything that they think becomes a reality. So when they say they have the power to forget, it's mostly like, we're going to manifest that. We're going to manifest a reality where we all forget what happened. Here's
where that logic, I think, falls apart on itself. I think you're starting a paradox there, because if 100%. You're thinking of forgetting, you're thinking about it. You can't forget what you're thinking about. It's there.
No, because the whole thing is a paradox, right? Like,
the whole thing is definitely a time paradox. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what they're trying to solve.
Yeah.
Because, and Dustin Hoffman points it out. He's like, but and when he says it, I was like, oh my God, they're going to kill themselves? That's commitment. I was like, that's a real commitment to humanity, man. It's like,
you know what? I think I would have been down for that ending.
Because it would have been interesting. Honestly, I feel because of the time, a lot of people would have felt cheated. Like, a lot of people wouldn't have liked that. Because in the 90s, people didn't like sad movies. Like sad ending movies.
True.
I think there's too many happy endings. You need the sad.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, man. I enjoy a sad ending. And I would have been down for them to be like, we gotta,
I'm fine with ambiguous endings. At least that way you get to decide for yourself.
Sure. I don't know. I feel like with sci-fi or with like anything that's high concept fantasy, even horror movies, when it talks about paranormal stuff, it's hard to stick the landing. It's hard to end it. It's hard to figure out how to end a thing, So, but I understand it's a paradox. I still think that's what they mean. It's like we can make a reality where we don't remember what happened.
Here's how I would have liked the movie to end, right? And it comes back to
45 minutes in.
I mean, yeah, in a way.
Like, I just wanted this to be a short film.
So, like, it kind of lost me around the time when everyone died, and now there's only 3 of them, yada, 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 and they have to escape. I wouldn't have been mad if all of them, true to Event Horizon fashion, all of them just died. because it comes back to what Samuel's character says in the beginning, like, we're all gonna die here. I feel like that would be a kind of cool thing. Naturally, as a movie to be 2 hours, you would spend more time seeing these characters die and not just have, how many is it, like 3 or 4 just dying in one sweep like that.
Yeah.
I had no interest in being above waters with the military thing. That took forever for me. However, you still need to have that sort of explanation. But that was the whole
first act. You said you really liked the setup of the first act.
Yeah, but they don't spend that much time above waters, though. What I mean in the third act,
the ending, though, and I think this talks a lot about how much it lost you. Like when the ending comes and they're above water, that's like not even 10 minutes.
Nope.
Really? That took so long time.
It's like they surface.
No way.
They get put in quarantine or whatever.
And
That's one scene where Beth is like, "Thanks for saving my life. I love you." And they,
Yeah.
And then the next scene they choose to forget. It's over.
Yeah. And
it's
then
2 scenes up above water.
Hey man, I enjoyed it way more below waters. Did it took that long time to set up the bomb and the bomb went off for that long time?
Beth set it up.
Yeah.
And then some shit goes on, and then she thinks about the bomb and triggers it.
Yeah.
And then they run underwater.
And they're trying to figure out who enters the sphere, etc.
That was a question I had. Did they film underwater? Because all the underwater stuff looks legit. And I don't know if they had technology for
They filmed in tanks. They filmed in tanks underwater.
Of course. But it is underwater, though.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I think that's awesome. It's really cool. I really enjoy that.
I think that ever since I saw 2001, I've had a big appreciation for good helmet design, and the design in this movie is pretty good. Like they have the LEDs set up pretty nicely. The top one could be better, but it's a nice design on a helmet.
Yeah,
the way you
little,
can it's a bit iffy, but the way you can see the characters' faces and have a clear specification of who is who and where, it's nice.
Yeah, I think it's a really well-made movie.
I still would have liked to see them die, all of them. Just kill them. That would solve your paradox.
You should. The book is a little bit different than the movie. You could read the book, see if that happens. I never read it because I'm illiterate. But when I get scripts, I have my roommates read it to me.
That's really nice of them.
It is. Sometimes they give me the wrong lines, and then you're like, Larry, we got to improv. Thank God. Okay.
Alrighty. Do you guys have any closing thoughts on the movie? Anything that you would like to leave people on?
I'm worried that if I like this movie more, I would try to fuck the disc. That's deep. I appreciate that. Thank you. I have nothing else to add to that, realistically.
I would like to be there for that, just to witness.
Algot, anything you would like to say other than clearly you don't like humans because you want us all to die one way or another?
I stick to it. I like films when everyone dies. I find that to be kind of satisfactory. At least in a movie like this, it would have made sense. It would have been cool. Yeah. It would have been fun. It wouldn't necessarily mean that the film would have had a unhappy ending because everyone already have died. That's basically my take on it. I would have done a different ending. Granted, I don't dislike the ending that is. Of course, I felt like it dragged on for way too long, apparently, if what you're saying is true, that it only was 10 minutes above waters.
We're saying not even 10 minutes.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say 10 minutes. It's insane.
Two very quick scenes.
So I could give it my rating.
Okay.
Alrighty. So with that, give us our rating.
Sure I will. I think I'm in between like 3.5 to 4. Surprisingly enough to you, probably, but because
so clearly we're going to 5s, I'm assuming then.
Out of 5s, yes.
Okay, because I say if that's out of 10, what the fuck? You were giving us some okay review.
So actually, I think the movie itself is very well made. Granted that I would have liked and would have done myself a different ending, I would give it a 3.5 out of 5.
Okay, Larry, I'm gonna leave you last. So, personally, I thought the movie was really well made. I love the performances. I really think they elevate the script to maybe something that wasn't there, unfortunately. And I think the VFX and the practical effects, they all fucking rock. And I love underwater movie stuff. And, you know, I will say this. I would have to give it a second watch just for the pacing, because that's the only thing I'm not sure of. Pacing. Because I do feel like it dragged on for some reason. And I think if I rewatched it without a time thing on my head, I might enjoy it more. But for now, I will give it a very solid 3.5. Might even go up to 4 stars. But for now, 3.5 stars out of 5.
I know that my IMDb score for this is 8 out of 10. So if we're doing that in 5, I guess 4.5, is that what that would be?
4.
4? Yeah, I can't math. 4 out of 5, easily. I think acting, great. Script, I enjoy the fuck out of. Production, I dig. Like you said, effects. The score, my God. Honestly, the rewatchability, I can see why you would think maybe it doesn't the first time anybody watches it, but then when you rewatch it, once you know what you're into, you're gonna pick up some things that you probably didn't before.
I agree.
I think I would also say check out another Dustin Hoffman and Barry Levinson film if you haven't seen it. It's called Rain Man. Enjoy.
Good, nice.
Nice. I am looking forward to giving this a second rewatch. I was hoping to do it like yesterday, but it never just happened.
Alrighty. So with that, guys, this cup of coffee's over. You know, our conversation on the movie's over, and thank you so much for joining us, Larry. You know, we had a lot of fun. It was really nice having you here.
You're welcome, man. Thanks for having me. It was a blast.
Yeah, it was nice. Algot, you can outro us now.
Yeah, I enjoyed the change of pace. Another sexy voice in my ears. Well, make sure to subscribe. Subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe on follow. What the fuck is it called? Follow on Spotify.
Spotify,
whatever.
YouTube, Letterboxd. Get your fucking fill of Fika and film.
I think we should bring this guy on more often. That was amazing.
Yeah, man.
I got the chills.
We got 3 F's there.
Though,
I think that's called an alliteration.
That's what we were going for.
I don't know. Me and Mao are on Letterboxd. Larry, do you want to give yourself a plug?
Sure. Why the fuck not? I think my Letterboxd is LairBear2058. Go ahead, give it a follow. I hardly use it. My Twitch is also LairBear2058. My Instagram is also LairBear2058. My Facebook is Jolly Intense. My Twitter is Jolly Intense _LL. And I think that's it. If you want to find me on Steam, I'm Mr_Dude2058. My email is movieguy2058@gmail.com and hotmail.com and yahoo.com. My phone number is... it was a blast. I really had a good time because during this quarantine thing, I don't really get to talk about movies with anybody that much. So I'm having a blast. Thank you.
That's really what this is all about, essentially.
Agreed. Yeah, this was just an excuse for me and Algot to be able to talk each other about the movies that we like and that we don't like sometimes. You know, it's fun. It's nice. Thank you for joining us, our listeners. You know, it's nice that you keep coming back. We're officially listened to in Brazil now. So
shout out to Brazil.
Yeah. I think that puts us at like 15 countries. I think 15 countries. So thank you. If you like it, share it, post us. We need the attention.
And again, Larry, thank you for joining us today and for a good movie recommendation. I really enjoyed the film.
Literally anytime. And you're welcome. I have so many more to recommend. At least, even if you guys like get bored one week and you're like, let's have Larry suggest. If you don't want me on the show, that's cool. Like I would literally just suggest a film because I listen to your podcast. I already follow and subscribe because I get my fucking fill of film, Fika and film.
It's the other way around, but you got it. That's a nice plug. We'll take it.
You don't need to suck our dicks. Anyways, join us.
No, please do though.
Oh, Apparently he needs it more than I.
I have the cum catcher. I'm good to go. Okay.
Oh no!
All right, let's cut it there. Bye, everybody. See you next time.
Bye.
See ya.